Okay, so I assume I'm live now.
Yes, you are. We're live.
Okay, good. We're live. Hey, everybody, I'm Laura, and you're watching Atomic News TV. And tonight we have Let's Be Frank, Captain Vicki, Snafu Snaps, and Mr. Atomic is here. So welcome to the show tonight, guys. I know it's been a hot minute since I've been live. But you guys know that, work has been crazy for me right now, so I appreciate you guys all hanging in there. We have the captain on tonight because, you guys, she's an airline pilot. She flies all over the world, and she has seen some crazy things going on during this whole virus, epidemic, whatever you want to call it. And so she was kind enough to come on tonight and pick her brain and let let her tell her stories of what she's seen. So if you are new here, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you hit that like button. And if you want us to see anything in the chat room, make sure you either do one of two things. Hit that @Atomic News and then type in your question so it pops up to me. Or
hit that super chat.
Yeah, or you can hit that super chat and donate to the channel. Dude, you guys don't have to, but if you want to, that's great. And then your questions will pop up super bright, and then we can answer those questions for you. That's why I have my partner in crime here and all of them to help me not miss those kind of things, because this is the first time I've been on this platform here like this. I'm a big kid now. I graduated finally, thanks to Frank. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pull Vicki in here. Vicki, thanks again for being on tonight. It's not the first time we've had you on, but the first time we've had you via video. So I know I posted some of your videos to my channel a couple days ago about what you were seeing in some of the airports, but I know that the people that watch my channel would love to hear what you have to say of what you've seen.
Yeah, and it was funny. I just got a call from a friend of mine. He's a 787 captain, and he's been off for a couple months. And so he's on reserve, which means, it's the luck of the draw. They just call you and assign you some kind of flying. And he asked me if he was afraid to fly internationally. And I said, I'm doing it. It's like safer than going to the grocery store. Because there's nobody, it's not just the United States, it's everywhere.
Hold on, I think
where'd you guys go?
There you are. Are you there still? Can you hear us? Hold on, are you there?
Yeah. So anyway, so there's all the so right now we're at if you can hear me, if you can't, give me a finger or something, but not a bad finger. So we're down to like 3% of our flying compared to what we typically do. Did you see the price of gas today? I'm sorry, I'm just jumping around. At minus $39 a barrel. The price of gas today. Yeah, it went way down. So we can fly around the world at 747 for free.
Right.
I was thinking about that. So we've been doing medical supplies now. We're just doing freight. So interestingly enough, we're bringing medical supplies back from Hong Kong. So my mom was just mentioning that. She goes, "Oh, you brought them back to California," and I think California just brought a bunch of medical supplies. So maybe that was what we brought back. But so we're just flying freight now, taking airplanes around for maintenance and freight. Other than that, the big planes they parked them all over in Arizona. Winslow or someplace like that.
Okay.
Anyway, New Mexico. I guess it's drier out there. So when we go into these airports, first of all, the airspace is quiet, and you can actually there's a 3D tracker run, and you can get on there and you can see every plane in the world and where it's flying and what it's doing, and it's just like the world is like almost empty of right now, internationally. Domestically, you see flights, and then domestically in Europe, but over the ocean, you see very few flights. We're out there with like FedEx, so that's who we're flying with right now. And so going into Hong Kong, that's my last few trips were into Hong Kong, and the airport's empty. There's nobody there. We're not carrying passengers. and we're taking like extra crew because we're flying 2 or 3 planes at a time in and out, and we're maxing out on cargo coming out and going over, unless it's for maintenance, but we're maxing out on cargo. So that's all we're doing is flying freight. So when you get there, there's nothing going on at the airport. They take your temperature everywhere.
Wow.
And you wear your mask when you get off the airplane. And these masks, we have some out of shape pilots. They were about dying by the time we got to customs. It was like a mile because they have trains there in Hong Kong, and the trains were out at the airport. So they were like dying. So the flat ones are much better. And then they take your temperature and they ask you all these questions. Have you been to China?
Yeah.
Kind of have. And so, and then they escort you off of the airport. If you are coming there, like you're traveling, I don't know, from someplace else and coming in, you are given a bracelet, and the bracelet is a GPS. They track everybody in Hong Kong.
Whoa, shut up. I had no idea about that. What about you, Frank? Did you know about that? Wow.
That's crazy.
I did.
Yeah. So they're doing,
Whoa.
it's kind of like that Bill Gates thing where he wants to track all of us. So so they track everybody. So their thing is if there's an outbreak, they can track where you've been and who you've been around and who may be exposed. That's their story. So, and then you get on the bus, you get to the hotel, they take your temperature. And you have to wear your mask out and gloves wherever you go. You can go eat at the restaurant, but you have to wear your mask, and they sit like every third table. But here's the thing. They are opening businesses back up. They're opening the restaurants back up. Okay. So you go in and you have to wear a mask. They take your temperature and you wear gloves, and you can sit no more than 4 people to a table. And then you can take your mask off, and then you can eat and you put it back on. So they have a protocol going. And they're letting them walk around a little bit. I don't really see much of anybody walking around, but you're able to. But they have a protocol that they're putting in place. They're starting to open their country back up. A little tiny bit at a time, which is a great idea. And then, and so it's just been nobody around, and we've kind of like stuck in our room. So it's even safer than going into the States. So then we go to Chicago, Frank. We go to Chicago. We have to go over downtown Chicago. And I go in there with my mask on and gloves, and the people at the counter, no mask, no gloves. Don't they have a problem in Chicago?
Yes.
Yes.
Check it out. Here comes the UPS gal, no hat, no gloves, handing over packages, like it's regular day at the office. So I think that our problem here is that we are not disciplined enough. And there's always, hey, do these masks and gloves, do they even work? I mean, do we really need them? So the Democrats say yes. So I guess we're going to go with that, because I post that on my Facebook page a lot. What do we do to open up? And they go, we need everybody tested. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that doesn't really make any sense. And it's like, when there is no more breakout. So what do you do in 4 months? One breakout in 4 months. Does that mean we close the country down again? And a lot of these people are Democrats, and they are retired. So they are not like trying to, going to lose their job or something like that. Mm-hmm. But so we've seen a lot of that. We have very few people flying. It looks like we did. I think I told you this today. We bought a plant that makes hand sanitizers.
Yeah, which
isn't that weird. Yeah. Plant, so we're making all our own hand sanitizers. I don't know what that's all about. I just heard that.
So the airline that you work for bought that?
Yeah.
Which we won't say which airline you work for, don't worry. But it's a big one. A hand sanitizer plant.
Yeah, so that was okay. I'd rather they be buying gas right about now. We did hear that we put a flight up for London in June. I'm going to look it up. But it filled up within a few minutes. I mean, the whole thing, within an hour, it totally sold out. So I don't know if there's people trying to get back home, because there is no other way to get there right now unless you take a boat. But I don't think you can do that even. So you're kind of stuck. So I don't know if it's that or if they are, if we're getting new clients. So we're hoping it comes back up, because we can only we have till the end of September before they start talking bankruptcy.
Okay, so that was one of the questions that I was just thinking in my head was, is there any talk of airline bankruptcy or bailout or needs like that you've heard through the grapevine?
Yeah, so they're saying they're not letting anybody off until the end of September, and that's where they'll start looking at addressing those issues and layoffs and bankruptcy and that type of thing. I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
So. Now, Captain Vicki, I had a question real quick about you were talking about masks and the gloves and stuff like that. Are the airline that you work for, are they requiring all of that for all their employees along with social distancing, or is it optional?
No, well, they say to use your best judgment. I wish that they were with the pilots. We're doing it, and hey, if you're in my crew, we're not wearing them in the cockpit. But the minute we get off on the airplane, so the company actually provides them for us. They provide sandy wipes, and so we have to wipe down the cockpit and all that. And then we get masks and we get gloves. And so when we're on the airplane, we can take them with us so that when we're off and we're in town and everything, we're okay. Because we were complaining we weren't getting them, and they said, "You're getting them," and we're saying, "No, we're not getting them." So don't tell anybody this part, but apparently the cleaners were taking them. And
the people that clean the airplanes, you mean?
Yes. And so they stopped. So now we have them. But I do notice the flight attendants, it's like hit and miss for our airline. I know other airlines are more strict about it. And so we wear them if we're around anybody. But the flight attendants should be wearing them more. I wish that they were. They're leaving it up to their judgment. And they demanded to have all this and then they don't wear it. So now they're not serving like no hot coffee, because apparently that'll carry a virus. I don't know what that's all about. But so there's no coffee. There's just boxed food, snack food like you get in the back, and then and canned drinks. That's it. So it's service is like non-existent basically now on the airplane.
I have a question for you, Captain Vicki. Now I know you said you travel around the world, and I've been noticing we've been looking at air traffic versus what it was to nowadays. And I know air traffic has slowed down. Obviously, you could even look at. I know they have light pollution, satellite type stuff. The same with air traffic, and you can see from like a year ago to now how much it's gone down. Have you guys actually, because of this, have they changed flight patterns for you guys as well? Or not really? Just to
have they done like what kind of patterns?
Your flight patterns, like are certain spots, have they said we don't want you flying over this area, or not really? Like hot zones.
No, that hasn't happened. We have like restricted airspaces, is what you're saying?
Right. I didn't know if you've noticed a change at all since this has gone down.
We are getting a lot more directs. So yeah, I think the military is playing that much higher because they have restricted airspaces, and what they do is they'll check, and if it's hot, we got around it. So usually clinics around it. If you ask for direct, we've been getting really good directs everywhere we go. You can take off out of San Fran and they'll go, okay, direct Chicago. So, and there's very few people out there. And you're right, everything's clearing up because there's not as much car pollution. I mean, even in China, you can see, and which is amazing because you can't see much going on there.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how is the air quality? Has that dramatically changed?
Oh yeah, it's much better. It's much better. Yeah, there's traffic anywhere you go, so that's kind of nice. And then China, in Hong Kong, they have all these airspeed restrictions. They want you to slow down to, 230 knots, and then 180 knots, and you're like 20, 30 miles from the airport. And now they're like, you can get the speed you want all the way in. So
I guess you would say, since this has started, kind of just being that you've been in the airline business for a while, flying, that you've gotten more directs than usual, I guess, more since it occurred.
Yeah, more directs and less people talking, of course, on the radio. So there isn't a lot really going on. And then like in LA, they have it separated out, the airport, and they have a north ground and a south ground and a tower, and they got one guy running the whole thing now. So you got one guy running the ground and the same guy running the tower, like a little operation, because they're just no airplanes. So
is every airport generally the same when you walk in as far as emptiness, or is there one airport that you've walked into that maybe you were surprised that there's actually some people here?
There's no people.
It's empty. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So,
your flights are mostly over the Pacific, aren't they?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So on this airplane, we're just flying to Narita in Japan, and then we do a Shanghai, in and out of Shanghai same day. You just go in and drop off, pick up cargo, and then fly right back out. So we don't stay there. And then we do Hong Kong. And then Guam. We go to Guam, Honolulu, Guam. Okay. So those are the three big ones. And then they do a couple of maybe Washington, D.C. And so we do a little tiny bit of domestic, but the planes are basically empty.
Okay.
So it's like I said at the first, we're doing 3%.
Wow. That's almost you're spending more money on fuel probably and everything else too.
You're paying us to buy fuel today.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
The passengers.
We do make a lot off the freight. And the way the laws are about freight is when you have passengers, all the passengers' luggage has to be boarded first before you board any cargo that you get paid for, and like the mail or any kind of other contracts that you have. So now we can just fill it all up with freight. And so when we leave and they say, oh, your weight dropped off about 5,000 pounds, that's a pallet. So I feel bad about that because the whole pallet of something that needed to go somewhere. So that's money. So we're just looking for different ways to make money. We're hauling troops. So we have that. So they're just thinking outside the box, which is kind of smart.
Yeah. So I know you can't and I want to protect that too. We're not going to say the name of the airline, but did you guys have like a big meeting like with your higher ups? I'm sure all airlines did about especially with the pilots. Then versus the staff, separate meetings, and then did they have one with all you guys together, or how does that work with this going on?
They do the road shows, so now we do like the webinars, kind of like like this. They get on and they tell us everything. Plus, whenever we sign on, we get email updates, or we get message updates all the time, and they're letting us know, hey, this is what's happening, this is what's going on. Our training center is closed, which has never happened in the whole history of the company, and it's been closed for a month now.
Is that the one you told me about in Colorado?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So up here next month. So everybody's happy because we don't have to go to training. Yay! But yeah, they'll hit us again next month. So that's not going to be so fun. But
so if let's just say the country opens up May 1st, do you think that there's that what do you have any fears as far as flying if everybody just everybody starts piling into planes
well I think you're right. I think what they do, they have to, and I don't know if it would be by airlines or if it would be by company, or if it would be what the government would put out, but I did hear something saying, well, they're going to start making people wear masks on the airplanes. I think for now, I don't think that's a bad idea. When there and you got that sick kid behind you or that lady that's coughing all over you. So
I've seen a lot of people improvise the mask. I sent a picture to Atomic.
Have you seen the picture of the guy with a shoe on his face?
Now, let me ask this. If say, for example, once we open up and we start piling these people back into airplanes, and some airlines decide, I guess, to start implementing the mandatory mask, depending on if it's a short time or a long duration. What happens if a passenger does not comply?
See, some people, they're claustrophobic, and this is something new that I learned, and that mask it gives them anxiety. But I don't know. We don't want to be, that's a really good question. And so you don't know really what the percentage is. I guess you would say, look, if you're going to travel today, you have to wear the mask. Maybe they should start out and just book every other row. So you don't have people in front or behind you, and they just book a row at a time or something, or spread people out. Don't pack them all in, like we love to do.
Right. But even inside an airplane, being a enclosed pressurized tube there, even if you social distance, those types of germs are still going to kind of spread. I mean, every time not every time I rode in the airplane, I get you get a cold. Some always, for whatever reason, you come out with a cold.
Yeah you come back, you bring something home with you.
Recycled air too,
Yeah,
maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, we have a recirc fan, so they recycle it back. And the other reason go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say on top of that, because I know, like, especially with you, you're international, right? Yeah. You travel international. So I know that the laws vary because certain countries are mandatory, mask type deal. And then, of course, you might have a plane full of, Americans and, Chinese and French, or who knows, it's international. So who would, like, determine that? The airlines, I guess, each individual airline, with Frank's question?
Being mandatory? Well, let's say like you were to fly into Hong Kong, it's mandatory. Their country, it's mandatory. So when you get off that plane, you have to have a mask, period. Crew, passengers, everyone. And you have to wear a mask and gloves. I don't know if the gloves are mandatory, but I do know that the mask is mandatory. And so that's set out by the government. So we provide it on the airplane. So if I'm traveling with passengers, I wear it. We were in first class. You would not believe this woman was like, she had the goggles on. She looked like she was in a painting suit, and she was all taped up and had her mask. People were laughing at her. I'm thinking, well, gee, she's not bringing anything home with her. So you'd be surprised. Almost everybody is wearing masks already. They've gone to that. Except in Chicago. Our little grocery store downtown had a thing out yesterday when I went there, and they said, you have to wear a mask or you have to wear a face cover to come in. So I think that little businesses can do it. If a little business can do it, an airline can do it. Mm-hmm. And you want to travel and you say, look, you want to travel, you got to wear the mask. And if you say yes, then you're going to wear a mask. So
there's somebody in the chat room right now, Aircraft Sparky, that says, I specialize in aircraft life support systems and such. Interesting. He says aircraft doesn't use recycled air. The exchange rate of air is amazing, considering the air conditions pump over. Hold on. Pump over 130 pounds of air into the cabin per minute. Does that sound about right to you?
Right. Yeah. So like how Frank was thinking, it's like we recycle it, but it's flows through so fast and it's cleaned out. And of course, as he knows, the cockpit is separate. So we get our air separately and it goes out separately. So if there was a fire in the back or smoke in the back, it's not pulled into the cockpit. And
okay.
Yeah, so we're separate. So when I told my husband that, he said, okay, I can go to work. And so,
as long as you got the separate air.
The airport's pretty good in there, so they have to keep those air filters clean. That's the other thing. So those only get cleaned out, every so often. So I'm sure they're cleaning them out more now.
Let's hope, right?
Well, I know we've run a lot of commercial valve bodies for the air circulation systems through the shop in the last couple of months. We've run a lot of
really.
Yes, Mr. Machinist.
I love machinist. It's awesome. Yeah, it's important. It's all that stuff, all the little tiny things. It's important. So in order to get people back on, we got to get their confidence back. So the things like what you're doing, it's important to hear that, hey, we are out there and we're trying to come up with solutions. And this is why it's frustrating when you hear the country, not to jump off subject, but when you hear the country, people are saying, look, when everybody's tested, so what does that mean? Everybody's tested. Yes, no, yes, no. Next week it could be a no, or it could be a yes. So I don't think that's an answer. So individually companies are trying to find solutions, because if we're going to wait for the government to do it, it's going to be that much longer. So, because I'd like to see this place get opened up. People are going, well, it's too soon. We could have a relapse. We could lose people. But all these little businesses are not going to make it. All these guys, paycheck to paycheck, they're not going to make it.
And then I know you have a personal business, right?
Me?
Yes.
Don't you? What's going on?
Yeah. How's everything? I mean, you obviously don't have to tell everybody what you do or everything, but how are you doing with that?
Well, right now I've moved everything out to my house, so I'm setting it up and getting things going. We do dogs, like really, really bad dogs,
naughty dogs.
Yeah, dogs, and we make them better, so we make them happy.
Yeah.
And we teach them how to do a lot of things. We teach them how to kayak and paddleboard and kart and swim. There's swimming pools, and so there's all kinds of. And then I have my treadmill, my big treadmill, 6 feet wide, 20 feet long, and we run packs of dogs. And so up in the mountains, so it's fun. So right now, just taking a break, reorganizing all of that. So we'll see.
Outside.
Oh yeah. We have to move our dog here because she's farting.
Oh, toot and poodle. I always say
I cannot handle this anymore.
I always say toot and poodles. I didn't know it was real.
So Mr. Tomek took off. He goes, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm getting her outside.
Oh my gosh.
Leave it to one of my groups or something like that to happen,
Exactly.
Hey, I got a question though, because it kind of goes on what Frank was asking. With people and mandatoriness and this and that. Have you guys been trained, or I guess the pilots are different from the staff, but you guys would know. What if people come on a plane presenting, coughing or sick? Is there any obligations, the airline, that they've trained you guys or told you guys that you need to do if you see someone that is ill?
And so typically the CSR, the customer service rep, they're supposed to, kind of gauge that, but, if they don't see it, they obviously get on, because if you appear sick, they're not going to let you on the airplane. If you are sick during a flight, they quarantine the whole plane when it lands. And
wow.
Going into London before all this, everything shut down. We had 5 airplanes sitting there on the ramp. They were all quarantined, and it only took about 3 or 4 hours. Yay. But they have to get that person off, take their temperature, check them out, and then they check out the other people. They don't check out the crew, which was at that particular day. That's what one of the pilots told me. So it's like, let's be consistent, right? Let's do everything. I want everything in one way. That's it. And then we all follow the same set of rules. But yes, they do. They have that in place. So if a flight attendant sees that, they should relocate them in the cabin if it's possible, and make sure that they have sanitizers and they have a mask on and that type of thing. We wouldn't duct tape them to a seat or anything like that. No, that doesn't make us popular.
So in Hong Kong, everywhere you go, they're taking your temp everywhere, and everybody's wearing masks and gloves. And then the difference when you get to the US is that you're not seeing that. So and this can be for Frank and Snafu too. Do you think that's just because we're in America and we think, we're free?
I think we're
over there, they're much more controlled.
Yeah. Well, and so here's the thing: you go to a communist country, they control their people, right? So they get what they want. But in this respect, it's like we have to be vigilant. And when I came into Chicago, and they go, "Oh, you got to go over there and get your red dot, or your blue dot." So before I went through KCM through my checkpoint, and they go in there and they take your temperature, and if it's fine, they put a blue dot on your ID badge. And so that means we've been checked. So now they're starting to check them at civilian airports. That was the first one. that I've seen. I haven't seen one in LA or San Fran yet, but I did see it in Chicago. And when you get onto the airport, everybody's complying at the airports.
Okay, good.
Masks and the distancing, everybody's complying. But when you get off the airport, and oh my God, I saw Uber. I rode an Uber and had this big piece of plastic between me and him. Have you guys seen that? They're putting plastic. Yeah, they drive up there and he had all this plastic, so you didn't have to smell me, I guess. So that's fine. That's cool. So they keep working. So.
Okay. To answer your question, Atomic News about, or Laura, about the difference between the communist countries and obviously here in the United States, I've actually been pushing here. I don't know if you visited the channel recently. Over the last month, I've been talking about how our freedoms are being encroached by many of these overreaching executives in the states. You look at Maryland, for example. Just using that as an example, real quick, they're forcing their citizens to wear masks outside. If they're caught without a mask, they are subject to a fine or even jail time. You got people like in New York City, de Blasio, setting up hotlines for if their citizens are not proper social distancing or even engaging in activity, they're encouraging them to call the police to go and to re-educate them about what is going on. And I've been on a tear lately. This is absolutely encroachment on our civil liberties, on the Constitution. I understand the threat, but at the same time, we have to understand the frailty of the Constitution. Look how far we've already come. We look back at 9/11. We see what we've given up. We've given up a lot of the Fourth Amendment. You go through the airports, you go through TSA, and you have to subject yourself through search and seizure. If you don't fly. So, you don't have to go through that, but if you want to fly, you have to submit yourself for that type of searches, which, again, kind of goes against what we've grown up to. And we're at this point now, we're looking at it as like, well, it's for safety. Well, you can make that argument for just about anything you want to if you want to take away freedom. They've been making that argument for the Second Amendment for how long? If it just saves one child, saves one child. And so we got to balance it so delicately because we don't want to fall into that slippery slope where we're having executives in these states that are trying to roll back a lot of the things that healthy people should not be subjugated to.
Right. And I think to add on top of that, with China, like you guys were saying, the tag thing, that's already been going on. In order for them to buy groceries, to market, to do anything, they have to have their cell phone, which has that ID tracker type thing in it. In fact, the report about, I think it was 20 million cell phones that have gone inactive now. Wow. Or something like that. It was you. Yeah, we did a big report on it. And they're not saying that the 20 million cell phones that are not active are deaths, but it's definitely showing that there's been a decrease in those tags, which, of course, we know some of those countries are not being to par as far as, disposal, if people are sick and this and that. And so I'm kind of curious, what about luggage, Captain Vicki? Because wouldn't luggage be something of concern? More like, from one country to another, and it's all like kind of bacon in your little plane in the bottom of the plane, like a little petri dish, Yeah.
So you have, they x-ray it. They do secondary x-rays on your luggage that goes into the belly, and our bellies are pressurized. And especially, and then we keep them at a temperature of 60 degrees, something like that. So they have a temperature, so it's a cooler temperature, but so they shouldn't be frying. They shouldn't be up to 80 or 90 degrees. But we have the limit, just like when you buy your ticket and it says you cannot carry these items, and these items cannot be in your suitcase. And then they x-ray it, and if you have a problem, there's not really a lot of control they can do about that. They may limit your carry-on again, that you can't carry suitcases on. When we get done flying, I take all my stuff. It's in the car. It just goes straight into the washing machine. not into the house. So we don't you don't bring all your germs into the house with you. But I think that's what you're talking about, right? You're worried about the germs and things.
Well, I know airlines are pretty like tenuous as far as like certain guidelines and rules, that they do. And it wouldn't put it past me to see an airline say, okay, well, we have all this luggage from, a country that is having higher optics of this going on versus others. So, in the, as you said, the belly, I wouldn't expect, like, if there were certain sections, if they were separating luggage or not, or if, maybe that's a little out there, but I just was curious, because, you guys are traveling all over the world. And so the luggage, is transferring to everyone else's luggage down there. And so I just didn't know if the airlines were kind of looking at the luggage and doing precautions on that too.
Well, that's a really good question. I just you saying that, my solution would be is to spray them like you, unfortunately, but like how you spray the planes. They're spraying the planes between flights, trying to sanitize them, keep them sanitized so they could easily on a conveyor belt spray that. Maybe that's why they bought that disinfectant factory.
Maybe so. Because if you think about it, when you're in the airplane and you're in the overhead and you're trying to grab your luggage, you may touch somebody else's luggage too. And if you just touch luggage of somebody that's got it, then you congratulations.
Because you have gloves on.
Right? So
and then you touch your face.
And then you touch your face.
Well, those would be good selling points to get people flying again is, hey, we spray everybody's bags down. So,
hose them down as they come on and off the plane.
Something to add to what Captain Vicki was talking about. I being in the aerospace industry myself, they check our temperatures twice a day
at work.
When we first come into the facility, and then again in the afternoon before we go home.
Wow.
So, and we are also encouraged to wear masks and gloves.
But you don't.
But I don't.
See, I think that's all you can do is to encourage people.
Yeah.
And hey, if you have a small business and say, look, you want to come to my business, you got to wear one, then it's just like the airline. You have to you have to do a search if you're going to fly on an airplane. You have to be, address that issue. So I think that those are great steps. Look, if I had a business, I'd say, okay, you guys, you got to come in with your face covered, and it's my business, so that I can put that up there. If I had an airline, I'd say, well, you have to wear a mask. If you just take it off during the flight, I'm not gonna. There's nothing I can do about that, but you have to use it.
Does that concern you if the air? Because I like how Frank worded his question earlier, because I think during this whole process, especially as Americans, we're kind of dealing with rights and liberties, whatever. And so my question to you is, do you think if airlines took on that motto of, everyone needs to mask up, okay, let's do that. Do you think it could lead into the whole, okay, now everyone needs to get tested in order to work, or everyone needs to wear a mask in order to go to jobs and work? Like, do you think, because we do live in a country of freedoms and liberties, and I know Frank kind of touched on that, how it's kind of messed with that. So as a pilot, I see what you're saying, and for the safety of you and your crew, but do you think, like, as a nation or just as a world, do you think that's a good motto to do? Because wouldn't, like, jobs kind of start falling in the same place? Like, oh, you got to wear a mask, you got to do that. Like, that's just my opinion. I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are.
Oh, well, I think like Mr. Atomic. I think like it should be suggested. And then if you choose to do it, that's fine. They're not telling people they have to wear masks on airplanes. However, the majority of people that are passengers, because we do have a few passengers that are still flying, they're all masked up. They've got masks and gloves, and they did this all on their own. We didn't ask them to do it, but they feel that makes them safer. We do have some that they don't. They don't have anything on. But I think it has to be up to you, because we do have civil liberties. I mean, if they get on the airplane, you take their temperature, you got to wear a mask. If they wear a mask and they take it off, I'm not going to sit there. I'm not going to make an emergency landing and have somebody arrested or duct tape them in the bathroom or anything over it. So it's about because we have to protect our liberties, but yet this can happen again. So it would be great if they had a procedure that everybody that's like that everybody could address. So like, hey, next year it happens. All right, we are under the COVID procedures. That means for the next 30 days, masks and gloves, or procedure 1 is in effect. So
okay.
But yeah, we're giving up way too much when they're saying, oh yeah, some guy was playing with his daughter, throwing a ball in a park, and they get arrested.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
That's like, this is like ridiculous. It's just and who controls that? The governor? The governor's doing that?
Right. So I think what I'm going to do, if that's okay with you, Vicki, I think I'm going to throw out the phone number in case anybody wanted to call in and ask you a question. You okay with that at this point?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So Mr. Thomas is going to shoot up the number into the chat room. But for those of you that are watching, the phone number to call in and ask Captain Vicki or any of us a question is 480-216-6140. It's 480-216-6140. You want to call in and ask Captain Vicki a question. I know Aircraft Safety or Aircraft Sparky, I know you're on here. So if you want to talk to the captain, give a call and we'll connect you here to ask her anything your heart desires.
By the way, Atomic, thanks for putting this together, and it's nice to actually be able to talk to both of you guys, Frank and Captain Vicki. So I appreciate you putting it together. Really cool.
I grew up.
I'm a big kid now. I'm a big kid now.
But so sometimes the phones will ring off the hook. You guys know this. You guys have watched. Sometimes they don't. So if it doesn't ring off the hook, don't. It just depends on the night, and how many people are watching, and how fearless people are. Because sometimes people get nervous, even though it's really not that big of a deal. Like sometimes it's scary to people to call in. So, but I do have a question. What is the most bizarre thing you've seen in like the past month that you saw it and you're like, what the is that? Like somebody doing something weird or something that maybe like caught you off guard?
Well, have you seen any UFOs? I'll straight up ask it. I'll straight up ask it.
I see a lot of people taped up like they're going to go paint a car or something like that. And it is so bizarre. And now it's becoming not bizarre. So that was the first thing. It was like they're coming in with goggles and their hair, and then they only show like this much of their face, and they got the mask on, and then they got gloves, and then they have tape around here. They have booties on, and they have tape around their arms.
We have a call. Oh. Hi, this is Atomic News. Hello.
Yeah, hi, this is Vince calling from Tony's Pizza. Your pizza's out for
delivery. We have a prank call. Are you excited, Vicki? Someone's sending me a pizza. This is why I stopped doing call-ins a while back, because I kept getting this. So who knows if this will even work. But I knew that you were open to the idea, so we'll give it a shot. But anyway, somebody sending me a pizza. That's what that is.
When do they spray the planes after takeoff and landing? Like just per time, or
between flights?
Okay, so, between flights.
Yeah. So when it gets to the gate, they spray it all down. They don't have time though to clean all the tabletops or anything like that. They don't have the time to do those. So it's just a big spray, and it's supposed to perforate everything.
Right.
Do they make you wear those N95s, or does it matter what kind of mask you wear?
No, they provide them. Okay. What is Mr. Atomic said? Anyway, they provide them, and then they have the flat ones, which are easy to breathe through. And then we have some guys that bring their own little giddy-ups. Okay,
because I know when I posted your video of you going through the airport, I know your mask was slipping, and everybody's like, she needs a new mask. They were worried about you.
Yeah, so I have a stack of them, so that's...
They were worried about you.
I
was like, if I have to make her one, I'll make her one.
That would be nice.
Hey, you ladies are prepared, man. China, all them guys are wearing bras.
I know. Just wear a bra over your face, right?
Right. Well, hey, Atomic's gonna have to send you a picture that I sent her. Yes.
It must be a good one.
Are you wearing masks anywhere, Frank?
No, I am not.
No,
I am not wearing masks. My wife, she's a nurse. She wears masks because she works at the hospital, so she brings home stuff all the time. Even before COVID-19, she would bring home stuff. So, but she practices wearing masks when we go out in public or whatever, just because of her line of work. And she always encourages me to wear one. But I always tell her, no, I'm not wearing a mask.
Frank, let me ask you a quick question. Do you think, like, where do you are you seeing the fine line between being precautious in this and liberties being taken away as well? Like, what is your whole thoughts on how we are dealing with this as Americans? You know, right to assembly. You know, some people are like, let's stay in, let's not do anything and not give it to anyone else. And I totally understand that. I respect that. But then some people are like, you know, hey, if I want to take my kids to the beach, you know, I'm not sick and I'm not worried about my family. You know, and I've always listened to your show. You're very, you know, what is your thoughts on some of these things that are occurring, you know?
Well, I've used this quote for the last. Go ahead and get the call first. I'll get back to it.
Hey, this is Atomic News.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah, I'm your neighbor. I'd rather.
Keep going.
Wow.
Hold up. Hi, this is Atomic News.
Hey, this is Aircraft Sparky from your chat.
Oh, this is a real person. It's Aircraft Sparky.
We got a real one.
It's John.
Go ahead, Whitney. What do you have to say tonight?
Okay, well, it's generally like this. I see people who are scared of the cooth, the Wu flu, the sweet sour sickness. And when I sit there and see people trembling in fear, I go, then please just stay in your house. That's your choice.
Exactly.
Go ahead. Sorry.
She just said exactly, yes.
Yeah. For those of you who want to know, hey, is air travel safe? Well, I've already explained to Chad how the air is recycled. I mean, it's fresh air that comes in as long as the air conditioner is on, which means pressurization is happening, meaning you can fly at altitude.
Right.
At over 130 pounds per minute. So the air that is actually inside the cabin does not just sit there stagnant. It's constantly circulating, and you're getting fresh air. It takes about a minute and a half for from when the initial air particles come in through the air conditioner to leave the cabin. It's constantly getting overboard. Mm-hmm. So you don't feel it moving, but the air is constantly moving. And now one thing I find interesting working with pilots and air crews all the time is Captain Vicki, you could probably attest to air crew is usually overlooked a lot as far as security protocols, as long as they have the proper identification and everything, correct?
Right.
So with that in mind, and the almost criminal searches that the passengers go through, and I call it criminal because it's violating your Fourth Amendment rights, having to go through the wiener check and everything, the X-ray machines, which air crew don't have to go through. I find that to be a violation of a civil liberty. What do you think about that?
Well, we do have like random searches and that type of thing, and we've fought to get the KCM, and we've had people that have screwed the program up a little bit, so it screws it up for us. We have people that are that do things that are not legit, and that makes it worse. That makes the whole process go through. It takes a long time to get this process. In order to get that job, you just didn't decide yesterday that you want to become a pilot. So you put in a lot of work and effort and a lot of trust. And so I don't see that as a problem. I hate it when I have to go through security and have to get X-rays and all that that people go through. What's that in the background?
Yeah, I think we just had a little bit of feedback. I just make sure that the YouTubers turn back down in the background for you. So that
computer. It's
yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
Now, I think I would tell people if the only thing that you should ever be scared of flying, the only fear that you should have is any skid does not work on about 90% of all commercial aircraft because airlines have decided that the chances of an aircraft going into a skid upon landing will only be increased by an unskilled pilot. So they tend to go through a lot of simulation simulators in order to get around that, because anti-skid is a very fickle system, and well, it's quite expensive to fix. However, where do the FAA regulations stating that OBIGS has to work? Am I correct?
What's that?
OBIGS.
OBIGS?
Fuel cell inerty.
Fuel. What was it again? Fuel cell.
OVIGs.
OVIG.
Yeah, OBIGS.
Okay, I'm not sure what that is. They didn't tell us that. So what is it?
Immersion system.
The fuel cell immersion system. Immersion system.
Inerting
system. Okay.
So like, it pumps a bunch of your fuel tanks to prevent vapors.
To prevent vapors.
Yeah.
In the fuel tank.
Yeah. Okay. It's under pressure.
Yes, it is. It's traditionally under pressure, but are you allowed to fly with it being inoperable?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we'd have to have it.
That's what military aircraft are.
Yeah.
Military is.
Military is allowed to?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Military's allowed to fly under some really bad stuff.
He's tried to ground planes, and the military said and did it and flew it anyway.
Yeah. I
but military can't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's different. It's different. There's different levels of what they consider to be important to the military versus commercial. But I mean, your biggest fear that people need to pay attention to in flight is basically, are the aircraft maintained well enough? Because the pilots are skilled enough to deal with almost any emergency, including a 4-engine flameout.
Yeah.
I mean, restarting an engine in the air, although it seems scary, it isn't that bad. I've done it a few times. I am not a pilot, but in order for me to do my job, I have to be trained to know what the pilots know, and usually perform a lot of the same sequences to find problems. When they see a problem, they report it. I have to be able to duplicate it so I can fix it. So
it happens in the air, so you have to take it off to duplicate it, right?
Yes. And I want people to know, because there seems to be a lot of fear. Just understand, look, freedom is dangerous. Liberty is dangerous. Thomas Jefferson said, "I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery."
Mm-hmm.
So make your choice. It doesn't matter. You're not going to be shaved either way. But if you're going to allow yourself to be held captive in your house during this epidemic, in air quotes, let that be your choice. However, I believe that we should look at our government and say, enough is enough. The Revolutionary War was fought during a smallpox epidemic. World War I ended with the Spanish flu epidemic. We have survived measles, mumps, rubella, polio, all before vaccines happened, and never once did we shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And suddenly, this virus comes up that I believe is actually manufactured by man in a level 4 bio lab in Wuhan, China. It still only has less than a 2% mortality rate. Why are we shutting down the largest economy in the world?
I call it New World Order minus Hulk Hogan. That's what I call it. But hey, no, honestly, I actually got a hold of some footage from 2005 leaked from the Department of Defense. It's all over the web. I don't know if you saw it, Atomic, or not. But they were talking about I think it's labeled under faith and optics, but they were working on a project, and this was in 2005 in the Middle East, how to take people's faith away. They did tests, and it all came down to vaccines and viruses that represented your flu-like symptoms and COVID. And like I said, this goes, if you're religious, many of us know that, my opinion, this is just me strictly, I don't get religious, but the world stage is being set for the Antichrist, Cabal, the rise of Cabal type deal, New World Order type deal. But like as far as the whole lab thing, there is so much evidence to that. And then, like I said, we played footage that got the channel hit about the 3 scientists that got arrested, linked to Wuhan, and also linked to Harvard. And again, like I said, these celebrities and everything going on with Harvard, and it just, so much of this is linked, man. It ain't even funny, so much of it.
Yes, and I'd like to piggyback off that just a little bit to say, pay attention to who is grabbing power at this moment. If you pay attention, Donald Trump is constantly pushing the federalist ideals. He is saying, this isn't for the federal government to handle, this is for the state government to handle. Notice how individual states are reacting differently. Mm-hmm. Those people they are telling you what their agenda is. Don't forget that in November.
Yes, very, very true. Very good point.
An informed electorate is a strong electorate.
Yeah.
And that's really all I wanted to do. Captain Vicki, thank you for your service, flying around the world and delivering cargo and people. That's awesome.
Well, I'll have to get the next time I have on a problem, I can call you at 36,000 feet and say, how do you work this coffee maker? You're right there.
I was flying back from Turkey a couple years ago in a cattle car to a government contracted aircraft that lost pressurization at 32,000 feet in D-11, and that got a little sporty, but basic ideals that people need to follow in life. Secure your own mask before securing another. And keep calm and press on.
All right. Well, thanks so much for calling in today. I'm glad you did.
Thanks,
Take
Marky.
care.
All right.
Bye.
That's a good point. We should all walk around like we think we're in an unpressurized airplane.
All right.
You're a child.
Excuse me, give me that. Good times, good times. Well, I'm glad we got a caller that was not sending me a pizza or something.
Yeah,
I would have talked to him for a minute. No.
I think this is a prank call. This is from, I keep getting 480, which is Arizona area code, and I think those are the prank calls.
Yeah.
I have a troll that watches my channel all the time, and he likes to prank call me.
What about what you were gonna say, Frank? What were you about to tell us about your opinion on that? I was curious what you were gonna say.
I was just gonna say. I go by this quote that one of my moderators had told me not too long ago, and I thought it fit perfectly for what we've been kind of dealing with. Is that my liberty does not end where your fear begins, and I don't want to live in a world or in a country where I have to do certain things because other people are fearful to come out of their house, or they're fearful, as Sparky put, so scared that they have to use a hazmat suit to go outside, and then they're going to shame you if you're not wearing one. If you don't have one, they're going to try to shame you into trying to wear one. No, I believe in the freedom. If you're scared, stay home. Mm-hmm. Stay home. If you're that scared, stay home. And just to piggyback off of what you said, Snafu, I had this. I do this Bible study every morning on my channel, and this verse that I found today was just perfect for what we're going through as a country today. It came out of the book of Joshua. It's in chapter 1, if you guys don't mind, and it's just one verse. And it's verse 9, and it says, have I not commanded you? Be strong and good courage, and of good courage. Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And I wrote underneath this, it's kind of my commentary I wrote with this. I said, fear is a product of this world to keep you and your mind enslaved. Do not fall for it. God has told us that to be unafraid and to have courage because he is with us wherever we go. So, if we live our lives based off of just our constitution, and if you're a spiritual person, if you add that with the Bible, you should be able to walk without fear because we have those liberties, we have that protection to combat fear with. I don't want to prescribe to fear. Fear is not healthy at all. Mm-hmm. Fear will actually make you sick.
Oh yeah.
Stress. Yeah, stress and fear.
Yep. For sure. All right, guys. Well, we hit that 1 hour mark, so I'm going to wrap up the live stream. Hang in there with me because Frank, I can end the broadcast, but we're still connected, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Thank you to Frank and Captain Vicki and Snafu, and yeah, I guess you too. For being here tonight and being on my very first fancy live stream.
Yay!
I did it!
Hey, it worked out really good.
Thank you. And for those of you that jumped on late, if you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you have not hit that like button yet, hit like. Come on, do it for this girl. And hopefully this will all be over soon and we will return back to normal life and I will be able to live stream like normal again. Stay tuned to that section and I will post when the next live stream is. All right, guys. Until next time, peace out. Yeah.